A sling angle is the angle between a sling and the load itself. By paying close attention to the sling angles for each sling we have rigged, we can be sure that the load will be safe and secure while it is being lifted. The force exerted on each sling increases as its sling angle decreases. If this force exceeds the sling's weight capacity, the sling could break. A sling angle of 90 degrees is ideal because it puts the least stress on the sling. There are two ways to get a sling angle of 90 degrees. One is to use a lifting attachment, and the other is to use a single sling. Unfortunately, most loads don't have lifting attachments, and many loads require two slings. To find the right sling angle for two or more slings, ask your supervisor for a sling angle chart. A sling angle chart lists various sling angle factors. If you are using two slings to lift a load, multiply the sling angle factor by half of the weight of the load. That way you can determine what the weight capacity of each sling should be. For example, the sling angle factor for two slings attached to a load at angles of 60 degrees is 1.155. So, for a 1,000-pound load, you would multiply 500 pounds, half the load's weight, by 1.155. This tells us that each sling would need to be rated for at least 578 pounds. If the sling angles were 45 degrees, the chart would tell us that each sling would need to have a weight capacity of at least 707 pounds. Sling angles of less than 45 degrees should be avoided because they put too much stress on the sling. Keep in mind that the shorter the sling, the sharper the sling angle will be. So, if you use slings that are too short, you could easily overload them, causing the slings to break. By taking your time and consulting the chart, you can catch sling angle problems and find the slings that are right for your lift. Now that you know how to rig the load, it's time to lift it. Cranes are only intended to lift straight up and down. A diagonal lift puts too much stress on the crane and could tip the crane over. So, before you lift, make sure that the operator has positioned the crane directly over the load and that the outriggers are extended and planted firmly on the ground. While lifting, you also need to be careful of accidental drops. Most often, accidental drops are caused by having a bad angle of the load, the angle between the load and the level ground. Most drops occur when the load isn't parallel to this level ground. Never let the angle of the load exceed 10 degrees. More than that, and the load could slip and fall, damaging material or injuring people. While accidental drops are dangerous, the most common hazard that a rigger faces is electrocution. And the most frequent cause of electrocution is contact with overhead power lines or electrical equipment. Make sure that you know the height of any power lines near your job site, as well as the location of all electrical equipment before you start work. This way you can direct the crane away from danger. You should also keep an eye on the weather. For instance, you don't want to stand next to a crane or hold on to a tag line in a storm. If you do, you could easily become a target for lightning.